that you took a few weeks ago. Okay, remember that the math benchmark are released STAR questions. Okay, so a couple of years ago, these were actual STAR questions for 5th graders. Okay, so you're going to see a whole lot of STAR questions in both math and science between now and May 11th. Okay, because May 11th, 12th, and 13th is our STAR time. Okay, so this was from yesterday. So who would like to volunteer to read this question for us? Anthony, go ahead.
What is 0.63 rounded to the 10th place? Record your answer and fill in the bubbles on your answer document. Be sure to use the correct place value.
Okay, so this is exactly what we did yesterday. So remember, the first thing we need to do is figure out what place we're rounding to. So what place are they telling us to round? The 10th place. So what digit is in the 10th place? 6. Okay, so remember, after we locate the place value that we're rounding to, we look next door. And we use our 5 or more, let it score, or 4 or less, let it rest. So is this 6 going to stay a 6 or go to a 7? It will stay a 6. Okay, so that means that my answer is 6/10. Okay, now I want to talk to you about this because this is a bubble question. Okay, and a lot of times students get very confused on what a bubble question should look like. So most of the time it'll be like this. Usually we have 3 columns before and 2 or 3 columns after the decimal. Okay, so you have to only fill in the digits you need for your answer. Okay, I don't want to see a bunch of zeros. If you don't need it as part of your answer, you leave it blank. Okay, now, is this 0 a part of my answer? Yes. So where does that 0 go? In the ones place, which is right here, right? Okay, so I put a 0 here. And where does my 6 go?
In the 10th place.
In the 10th place. Okay, so I do need this 0. Okay, but I do not fill in. I don't fill in this one. I don't fill in this one. I don't fill in this one. And I don't fill in this one. Okay, those are blank. And remember, there will be circles underneath that you have to then go in and fill in a 0 and a 6. Okay, and again, if you don't need it, you leave those circles blank. You don't do anything with them. All right. Now, it's super important that you pay attention to that, because if you're not putting that in the right place value, you're going to get your answer wrong. Okay, if I put my answer, I put my 6 here, what I'm really saying is that 64 hundredths rounds to 6 thousandths. And is that correct? Not even close. Okay, and the same thing, if I put my 6 here, I'm saying that 64 hundredths rounds to 600. Does that make sense? Absolutely not. Okay, so it's not enough just to get the fact that, hey, yeah, it needs to be rounded to 6/10. Okay, you have to also put it correctly in the bubbles. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so let's go on to our next problem. We are going to do this one? No. We are going to do one more problem on here, and then you're going to do a problem on the whiteboard. Okay? So, who would like to read just this top 2 short sentences? Israel, go ahead.
4 students are traveling to a math contest. The table shows the weights of the 4 student suitcases.
Okay, now I always teach my 5th graders, before you even go to the question and the answers, you look at that table and you break it down. So everybody, what's the title?
Weights of suitcases.
Weights of suitcases. That's my title. Okay. What's the title of my first column?
Student.
Student. And what's the title of the second column?
Weight of suitcase pounds.
Weight of suitcase in pounds. Okay. So now that we have the context of the problem, we're talking about suitcases and how much they weigh. Okay. Brandon, would you read the question for us?
Okay. In what position would
Ones.
one suitcase be if the weights of the suitcases in pounds were ordered from greatest to least?
What is the most important part of that question right there? Greatest to least, absolutely. Because just like I said a few minutes ago, if I go through and I do this strategy and I put the wrong order, I'm going to get my answer wrong. Okay? So they already have these numbers kind of lined up for us, don't they? Okay? So if I'm looking at the tens place right here, does that help me? No, because they're all twos. Okay? So if I'm looking at the ones place, that one's a little bit like, I wish these were giving me a little bit more room, but so if I'm looking at the ones place, does that help me? Not really, because we're kind of like that other problem that we were doing. Like if I know I'm going greatest to least and I've got ones and fours, that tells me that this number and this number, because there's a 4 in the ones place, these have to be either the first or the second. Okay? Which tells me that the ones numbers have to be either the third or the fourth. Okay? But that doesn't tell me what order they're in. So now I go to the next one. So let's look at 24 and 8/10. Someone needs to mute themselves. Brandon, please mute yourself. And 24, let's just look at the tenths place here. Okay? So I have an 8 in the tenths place and a 7 in the tenths place. So which one of those would be first? Think about what order we're doing. Greatest to least. So it's the 8, right? So that means Tiana is first and Emmanuel is second. Okay? I don't need to look at those numbers anymore. And so now I'm going to look at the tenths place again for these 1 numbers. So I have a 6 in one's place and I have a 4 in Kimberly's place. Which one would come next? The 6 because we're going greatest to least. Absolutely. So 1 is going to be third and Kimberly is fourth. So now that we have our order, go back to the question. Okay? Which person is the question talking about? 1. So they want to know what order 1 suitcase is. So what order is he? 3. So our answer here is H. Are there any questions on that one? Okay, so now let me show you. I'm not putting it in the chat yet, but let me show you the question you're going to work on. Okay? It says, which inequality is not true? Inequality means they're not equal. Okay? So you have to go through all 4 of these questions and you have to decide which one is not true. Okay? So you're going to do your work on the whiteboard so I can see what work you're doing to answer this question. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay, so let me come and invite you. I always forget which one. Let's do this one. Okay, so let me go back to the chat. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to put this in the chat and you're going to click on that and I'm going to see your work in the chat. in the Whiteboard app. Okay, so there it is in the chat. I want you to click on that and let's get logged in to the Whiteboard. I'm going to give you a couple seconds and then I'll tell you who's in and who's not. Once you're in, you can go ahead and get started. You don't have to wait for me to tell you what to do. All right, so I see Elijah. I see Israel, Brandon, David, Rita, Anthony, Jada, who's that? Jalen. I see Julissa. I see Eduardo. I see Antoine, Rakaya, and Stephanie. So I do not see Isaac or Kamari. So you need to get logged in there. I think we may have lost Isaac. He was on there for a while. Yeah, he's okay. So Kamari, I don't see you on there. All right, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to show me your work, and then we'll talk about it. Kamari, I still don't see you. You need to be logged into the Whiteboard. Oh, I see. He decided to leave. Oh, I see some good strategies out there so far. I see some good work. Except Anthony, I don't know what you're doing. It's just one big, huge, like, scribble there. Jada, I don't see anything yet. Jalen, you can't just pick an answer. You have to put a strategy there. I don't see anything except an answer for Israel or for Jalen. That's not okay. You need to have a strategy. That's why we're doing this today. I still don't see anything on Eduardo, Stephanie, your boards. Rakaya, you need to have your strategy, not just an answer. All right, I'm giving you 30 seconds and that's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to stop right there because we need to move on. So I'm going to go back to Teams and share my screen again so that you can see the quiz that you need to do. Okay, so sharing my screen, so you should be on Teams, not on Whiteboard. All right, so your quiz today. So the first question is multiple choice. The second question, multiple choice. The third question, multiple choice. The fourth, multiple choice. And the fifth you need to explain. So this says, explain why it is not reasonable to say that 4 23/100 is less than 4 135 thousandths. So you can type or make a short video. Okay, so the first 4 questions are multiple choice. Make sure you read them carefully. And then the last one you need to either type or give me a video. Okay, this is for a grade today. Are there any questions? All right, we don't have a whole lot of time today. We don't have our usual 15 minutes. We have about 9 minutes left. So if you do not get this done during math class, it needs to be done before math class tomorrow. All right, let's go ahead and get started.